I'll say, and the quote from Napoleon Hill's book, which is so beautiful, is those who lack the sex energy will never be enthusiastic nor inspire others with enthusiasm. And so that embodiment piece that you said, just taking it one step further, when you are comfortable and connected with your sexual energy, you are embodied, right? This is a byproduct of that. And when you are embodied, you have more power, you have more presence, and your confidence is palpable. And it's not an ego-based confidence. It's a genuine, absolutely genuine embodied confidence. And that is magnetic.
Welcome to the show, Deborah Kagan. I'm so happy to have you on Passion, Love, Pursuit podcast.
Erica, I'm really, really excited to be with you.
Yeah, as I was mentioning, I know today's conversation is one that a lot of people like to know about, but they don't usually talk too much about. So we're going to have a conversation about all the good stuff today and your expertise. And I know this is something that people are a little bit more curious about, but don't know really what questions to ask. So we'll try to get deep into the conversation and kind of blow people's mind today. So first, I of course need to ask you, you are known as a Mojo recovery specialist. Can you explain even what that means and how did you even get there?
Yeah, because it's 7 years old. You're not like a little girl going, ooh, I want to be a Mojo recovery specialist, right? It's not on the career list. Mojo, let's just start with the basis of all of my work, which is the fact that everything is energy. And I know that you are in line with that. And I'm sure many of your listeners, if not all of them, are already of that mindset. So I like to at least create the foundation, at least even for this conversation, for those listening. Let's come to the agreement that everything is energy. I mean, thank goodness for scientists now and our physicists. They have proven what metaphysicians for thousands of years have known. So Mojo is simply another word for life force, for the energy that moves everything in life. For my yogis out there, it's called prana. For my feng shui and tai chi folks, it's and martial arts folks, it's chi or ki. We can call it sexual energy, right? Napoleon Hill writes about in Think and Grow Rich. There's an entire chapter dedicated to your sexual energy, which is the exact same thing as Mojo. I just happen to call it Mojo. It's a word that we're not exactly sure of the origins, the etymology, but we believe it originated in Africa. And Mojo means it's like your special powers. Okay. And there's still some shamans or medicine people that, wear these things called a Mojo pouch. And the pouch simply carries, whether it's a gemstone or an herb or some leaves or some sort of talisman, that those things are not their mojo yet. They are items that help to inspire and remember your own innate inborn mojo that everybody has. Everybody's born with it, and we never lose it.
I love that you say the remembering of that energy and that mojo that we all have. I love how you explain that. So can you share why you are a recovery specialist? What has been your journey that has led you here?
Yeah. So thank you for that. Also the recovery part, because again, we're all born with it. And so I really believe that as a human, we are here to forget it and to actually recover it back. My journey definitely was that, and quite intensely. I always say I come from a functionally dysfunctional household. My folks got divorced when I was young. They both remarried quickly. My mom's second husband, that was a home of domestic violence and abuse. And so that was where I learned that it wasn't safe to be in your own home, nor was it okay actually to be a woman, and that our bodies were not necessarily safe at home or out in the world. And then I was resourceful even as a young kid, right? So I'm originally from New York City, and I think that might be an inborn New York City thing. However, I did get myself out of that house and ended up going to high school outside of the home at a boarding school. And unfortunately, at the end of my freshman year, I was raped by somebody, not at the school, but somebody who broke into my dorm and raped me at the end of that year. And that was the first time I had sex. So I share these things because, it's part, yes, it's part of my journey, but it's also part of where I thought I had lost mojo. Now, I didn't consciously know this as a teenager. I didn't say anything about my life in these ways until I got to college. And I actually was in film school in New York City at NYU. And it was one of the film assignments to make a short film about an experience. And I ended up making a short film about my rape. And at that moment, that was where I broke the silence. And I just never shut up ever since then. And it helps to, of course, even if you tell one person and talk about whether it's assault or asking a sex question, right? If you talk to one person, you are helping to let go of the shame that is surrounding these experiences that we have. So all of this led me to a desire to learn more. Like I knew that there was a spark inside. And it was also during film school that I got really introduced formally to the world of spirituality. And that blew my mind, and it felt very comfortable, and it was very much of something I felt like, oh, I'm at home here. And I got introduced to gemstones and gemstone healing also in college. And this is back in New York in the late 80s, early 90s, where it wasn't so cool, to be into that kind of stuff. But that was the moment that I knew that there was something more and that there was something to be discovered and to be, recovered, because it didn't feel like it was something out there. It felt like it was inside me already, but that I had lost access to it. So that's where the recovery part comes from. And then real quick, I ended up moving to Los Angeles, which was great because it was, here are my people in terms of the world of metaphysics and
More
crystals and
woo-woo.
energy. Yeah. So it's like, oh, okay. And I got to really come out of the metaphysical closet at that point. And I also ended up getting married. And this was, in my late 20s. So it was kind of early. And it was during that marriage that I felt like I lost my mojo. And I ended up leaving that marriage. And so when I did, I said, I am going to learn everything that I need, whatever it takes, to become a woman who is so comfortable in her skin, who is so fully, unabashedly, sensually alive, like comfortable in all areas of being a woman, and reclaiming, really recovering that mojo and that erotic nature, which erotic nature is simply mojo plus your desire. So it was all about recovering all of that. And that was the journey that then led me to this, and ended up opening up a women's group out of my living room, which we had affectionately called the Pussy Power Posse. And it was a space, to talk about our bodies and intimate relating. And that ultimately ended up becoming the business that I now have.
It's so great. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing vulnerably your story. And I do think it's important for people to hear that, because I believe even if something traumatic as that hasn't happened to anyone listening right now, I think that has happened to somebody. But I think there are a lot of people that feel disconnected from their body, but they're not sure why. Maybe they're not sure the reasoning of why this has happened. And I think today's world, I believe there are a lot of women and possibly even men that don't feel connected to their sexuality and sensuality. If we're talking to women listening, why is that? Like, what is the common thing that disconnects people from their sexuality and sensuality? What do you find is the common thing you're experiencing?
I mean, there are two things that seem to be the bigger things. One is if you have gone through any kind of assault or trauma, right? So when that happens, there's a lot of conversation around, of course, and understandable and very important conversation around healing the trauma through certain, therapies and mindset and this part of the process. There's becoming more, but there has been little talked about of the real tragedy that occurs, which is the disassociation from the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is about this disconnect and this disassociation from even feeling safe or alive in the body that does take away from your sense of sexuality, sensuality, and aliveness. So that's one very common thing that I see with women that come to me and work in my mentorship program and come to my events and frankly just write in on social media. The other thing is we don't have a culture, at least here in America and in this part of the Western world, we don't have a culture that really is pulling for sacredness and sovereignty in our bodies and in a sense of encouragement and invitation to be alive particularly as a sexually vibrant and holistically alive woman. Right. There's still this, oh, no, if a woman, goes out there and has some fun, well, she's a slut. Right. Or not to be trusted around, your boyfriend or your husband or whatever that might be. And so our culture has taught us to have this very, it's really a diseased relationship with sexuality.
Yeah, I think part of it is rejecting parts of us. And I love that you talk about the reclaim and the remembering of that sovereignty of our sexual energy, what we're born into the world through, really. So, how could we unlearn, or if you want to say, start to question those beliefs that we have learned, growing up or whatnot, or being around, and change our view of the power of our sexuality and then not be so shameful of it?
I love that question. And I'm so glad we're having this conversation.
Important, right?
Because like literally like this, it's about having these conversations. It's about beginning to listen to these conversations. It's about having the willingness to just wonder if you're feeling shameful. And look, all of us have shame around sexuality. I mean, I have yet to meet someone that's American, who has zero shame around their sexuality. And, that's telling of a larger culture. And so in terms of, how do we begin to, make inroads, listening to these conversations, reading books, talking to your friends, like in safe women's communities. I am a huge advocate for women's circles, women's groups, women's communities, but you have to be really fastidious in looking at and seeking out communities that truly are championing these types of conversations instead of stuck in more of the patriarchal, no, you need to hide and not be okay with your sexuality. Even though you could dress kind of fun, but underneath it all, don't actually be like that. Sneaky. It's very sneaky. So you got to pay attention to it. So the first thing, and what I'm saying here is mindset. All right. This is very much about, I created a 4-pillar system with the Mojo. And so M is about mindset. You got to really check, what are your beliefs? Is it something that you truly have adopted or chosen for yourself? Or is it a belief that was given to you when you were younger and in childhood or at school or at, church or temple or wherever it might have been?
Right.
So really check your mindset. And then, the second piece is what I call the oracle. So we have to get really comfortable in our bodies. Because if we're not comfortable in our body, and if we don't know how to allow ourselves to feel pleasure, then it's very difficult, right? To even contemplate how are we going to feel like super ecstatic and lit up about our own sense of sensuality and sexuality. And so I call the body the oracle because the body has all the wisdom, right? An oracle knows everything. And this is so much of what my work is dedicated to, is that embodiment, right? It's why, I mean, I wrote my first book, Find Your Me Spot. Like, this was all about helping you to consciously use your senses, real simple, in order to activate your mojo and your life force so that you can feel good in the body. And then, this, my newest book, this one, Undressed, this was very much specifically dedicated to supporting you in coming alive with your eros, your erotic nature, and your sexuality. So I think it's important to listen and find other women who are already in a space of sovereignty, comfortability, full self-expression in these ways. And by the way, when you step into your full self-expression with your sensuality and your sexuality, it doesn't mean that you're running around and you're like sleeping with 5,000 different people all the time. Right? But that's something that women say to me. Well, am I going to need to go and share this with all sorts
Explore.
of different people? No. Right.
Right. Yeah. So actually, that brings me to asking you, when you started to uncover this about you and reclaim your sexuality and your sovereignty and your erotic nature, how did you start to change? How did you start to notice you changed? And how did you notice other people change around you by you in this, like in
Yeah.
reclaiming your erotic nature?
Yeah. So what's really interesting, so in Undressed, I write it's in 7 sections, and I do share 7 erotic memoir stories of
Mm-hmm.
experiences I had with different lovers that each really helped to awaken one of the power centers of the 7 power centers of the body. Now, I didn't realize it necessarily at the time, but when I looked back at these experiences, they were quite pivotal. But I realized, oh my goodness, each one of those experiences really lit up these areas of confidence, of cracking my heart open again, of finding my voice in a much stronger way. And so what happened was my own sense of self and my own sense of confidence definitely shifted. And I also started to attract different people in my life. Because again, we'll go back to the beginning, everything is energy,
Yeah.
including us, right? So the energy that we're vibrating and that we're beaming out, consciously or not, is what's going to reflect back. And so I found the more and more that I would step into this space, like truly a congruent, very alive and aligned space within my own sense of self, sexually and spiritually, that the people that would come into my life, whether it be friends, people I did business with, or lovers, were always up leveled. It just kept going up and up and up. Now, the funny thing, and this isn't necessarily written about in the recent book, but I'm always happy to talk about this. And some people are like, "What? You, Deborah, you did this?" I actually took a year, and I think it ended up being about 3 months, and was celibate because specifically I kept attracting the thing that I didn't want.
Yeah.
Because and even though consciously I knew I wanted something different, but what I realized was the old energetic patterns from the traumas, from the beliefs that I wasn't good enough, or I wasn't valuable, or I'm not worth it, or all of those things that got planted as seeds when I was a child from all those different experiences, they were still the more dominant energy that was being projected from my
Mm.
subconscious. And I happened to notice it through the lovers I was attracting. And so one of my mentors said, "Hey, might be a good idea for you to take a little sabbatical and do some celibacy." And I thought, I don't want to do that. I love sex. This is crazy. But once I got over my little tantrum and hissy fit, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to take it on. Now, for those of you who, might be questioning, well, does that mean you never self-pleasured? No, that was not the deal. The deal was I was simply not going to be with another body, right? Another human, and have any sexual relations. And my mentor said, do it for 6 months. But it was so powerful that I chose to do it, double that and then a little more, because I could feel my own energy shifting through that process. And and this happened, almost 20 years ago now that I went through that process. And that was very pivotal. And once I decided, like, okay, a year, I'm ready. I felt solid enough in my own transformation that the lovers that I ended up attracting afterwards, and then ultimately, quite quickly afterwards, I met my next partner, who is just the most divine person. We're not together anymore. We're still very, very dear friends, but talk about a completely different quality of human
Mm.
that came into my life. So those are some of the things that shifted, and it allowed me to drop much of the shame and really be with people on a totally different level, whether it was conversationally, in the work that I do in the world, and certainly in my intimacies as well. It all shifted from there.
I think what you just shared, I mean, maybe, somebody listening right now needs to hear that. And maybe that's something that they need to recognize in themselves, bring that awareness that maybe they are attracting the same situation.
Mhm.
And so this is not everything we're sharing today. It doesn't matter if you're in a relationship or married or single or whatnot. Like this is for you. This is your permission to reclaim your erotic nature in any situation you're in. And that's what I think is so great, is that it doesn't matter the stage of life you're in.
Mm-mm.
This is your permission. And so I want to get to how do we get there?
Yeah.
But first, I want to get clarity, or if you could crystallize this. Why is sexual energy so important? You brought up Napoleon Hill early on, which I've read that and I saw it in your book as well. But it's talked about in Tantra,
Mhm.
all these practices. So why is this so important that we harness this sexual energy and get to know it, if you want to say, like experience and
Yeah.
play with it?
Well, because it feels good. I mean,
That's one reason.
that's one
On
reason.
another note, but
But
yes.
but yes, but really, I think we can all agree that life is quite challenging. And um, what I have learned for sure is when you do connect to your sexual energy, which again, you can call it in Tantra, we're talking Shakti, right? This is that life force energy. Everybody has it. Doesn't matter what gender you are. We all have the Shakti. And so to let that awaken and let that really move through your body, there's the psychological benefits of being happier, more enthusiastic about life, being in a state of pleasure more often than not, even when you go through challenges, right? Because it helps you to recognize that the challenges are there to help you to grow and to move through the I call them the kinks. It's not like bow chicka bow bow kinky life, right? But the kinks that have all of us that have them and that got created from when we were a child. So we have this in our neurobiology. When you have gone through a micro trauma or a macro trauma or anywhere in between, that is now layered in your physical body. And one of the ways, and one of, I think, the best ways to transform them, because those kinks, those traumas, they get hardened and calcified the longer that they sit there, and they jam up, again, this neurobiological structure and the freeways within you, meridians, for those of you who are familiar with that. But they jam that up. And so your natural state of this mojo, this sexual energy, cannot easily flow through you, which is why
Hmm.
you will start to feel frustrated, tired. You might have some health problems, psychological issues, so on and so forth. So we want sexual energy to be flowing through us so that there is this more natural state of pleasure. And when the challenge arises, that you recognize it's a growth opportunity and that here is this moment of evolution. Now, every time that I go through a challenge, am I like, woohoo, woo, it's amazing. No, not right off the bat. However, I get to it pretty quickly. And that helps to alleviate the suffering. And we all suffer too much at our own hand. And this is one of the ways when you are connected to your sexual energy and that beautiful flow. So you have a different psychological and emotional state of being. That's one of the reasons. Let's just talk about then physical. I mean, again, the level of actual awakened pleasure that you are in touch with is delicious. You feel good in your body. Even, I mean, look, I'm postmenopausal at this point for, 2 years now, and it's kind of wild to me. And there's all the things that come with menopause, some of the weight gain, some of the, lethargic, this and that. But the fact of the matter is, what has helped me throughout this whole process has been diving in deeper and more often to that beautiful well of sexual energy that is always there. And it's helped me to like love my body in this new chapter of my life and to feel still really sexy and just online. So that comfort level happens because of the flow of sexual energy. Not only that, but you're going to have better orgasms. Okay. Because it's you to have the natural flow of energy. You're not holding back or tightening or clamping
Right.
down when that's moving through you. Whoo, like delicious orgasms. And it also really can help with hormonal fluctuations and hormonal flow. So these are just some of the benefits
Lots of,
of
yeah.
when you connect. Yeah.
Yeah. And you talked about earlier, you said that embodiment. And I think that's the thing is like when you feel embodied, you naturally are more confident, you radiate, you feel more aliveness because you feel embodied. Like there's
Yes.
just that, like, I think anybody that has experience, like when they really feel, comfortable in their body, I think naturally all these other things exude externally, so that is
Well,
a big thing. And I like that you talk about I just want to mention this. I like how you talk about how trauma, obviously, everybody's heard trauma stores that energy in your body. And if you don't get it out of you, if you don't express healthy anger, if you don't cry, or if you don't, shake it off or whatever it may be, it becomes stagnant. And so,
yeah.
as you kind of explained, moving sexual energy is so powerful. You could move it through your whole meridian and
Mhm.
move that static energy, if you want to say. So,
Exactly. And I'll say, and the quote from Napoleon Hill's book, which is so beautiful, is those who lack the sex energy will never be enthusiastic nor inspire others with enthusiasm. And so that embodiment piece that you said, just taking it one step further, when you are comfortable and connected with your sexual energy, you are embodied, right? This is a byproduct of that. And when you are embodied, you have more power, you have more presence, and your
mm.
confidence is palpable. And it's not an ego-based confidence. It's a genuine, absolutely genuine embodied confidence. And that is magnetic.
And who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the people you've worked with that have come to work with you. Do you find the woman, I assume you mostly work with women,
Yeah.
the women that come to you, are they operating more in their masculinity in their work or in their homes, in their home life, that they're somewhat suppressing their feminine essence? Do you
Yeah.
find that to be a common block for them?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from the beginning of my work, I've always said there's the masculinization of women,
Mm,
and that's been happening for over 50 years at this point in our modern day. I know it very well because that is how I was, and that was something that I also needed to unlearn and really peel
mm,
those layers off. And I think it's important to note masculine energy is not a bad thing.
right.
Every gender, we all have masculine and feminine energy, right? I mean, it's two qualities of mojo, of sexual energy. If yin and yang, and it exists within everything and every body. But what happens is that many women have been trained to live out of just that masculine energy, which is the drive, the A to B, the get stuff done. And even for all of you ladies who are stay-at-home moms, or full-time moms, like, you're utilizing masculine energy for most of that momming, and you have to. If we didn't exercise and utilize our masculine energy, nothing would get done, right? I mean,
Right.
really. So the feminine is the energy that is all places, all the time, kind of everywhere, like octopus brain. And, it just can run wild, which is beautiful. But without some container, again, nothing happens. So we want to have we really do want a balance of both, because I think it's less now, but I still think that masculine energy is getting vilified. And I think it's important to remember we all need it. I could have never
Right.
written a book
Or
if I
nothing
didn't
would get done.
exercise.
Yes.
Yeah, my masculine energy. I couldn't run my business without masculine energy.
Yeah.
Do I want to be coming from my masculine energy when I'm out with my lover for the evening? No. I like to be in my feminine, right? Like, that's just more natural for me. So, but how does one drop the masculine energy at the time that you don't really need it anymore? So, one of the best ways to do that, by the way, is to get in your body. See, because our masculine energy lives above our neck. It's our life above our neck. It lives in our heads. And your feminine energy, again, no matter what body and what gender you are, feminine energy lives in the body. So a lot of times I'm getting ready to go out and, and to be more in my yummy sensual space, I will dance while I get ready. Right. There's a really popular exercise from my first book. It's called the Love Body Wash. So if you're going to take a shower or take a bath and get yourself ready, there's a whole way to, like, love up your body. And it's so simple. You just like, oh, I love my arms and I love my chest. And you start to really get into this a beautiful appreciation space about your body. And by the time that you're done with the Love Body Wash, every cell is tingling. And so now, oof, you're in your body and you feel juicy and alive and more aligned with the feminine energy. You can change your clothes. You could put on something that's a little more flowy. You could put on a dangly earring, something with a sparkle, whatever feels good to you. But this shift and this conscious shift from that masculine to feminine energy is something that can be learned. And it's a practice. Most women, to get back to your original question, come to me because they are in some state of pain and discomfort and agony, that they know that there's something more for them in terms of who they are as a woman and what's possible in terms of pleasure. And they're just stuck because they're in that loop and in that grind of just running the masculine energy through their bodies. So that is the majority of women that do come to me originally.
Yeah, that I think that's a big conversation. There could be a whole episode on that. But I
Yeah.
do think that obviously your new book, Undressed, as you mentioned, it goes into the 7 meridians of our body, and you share some of these of how to utilize these meridians. Can you walk us through maybe, I don't know, one of them and kind of
Yeah.
just explain what is in this book
Yeah.
and how a woman can reclaim their mojo by utilizing either grabbing your book or something you're sharing today? What would be some things?
Yeah. So yeah, Undressed is an invitation to claim your erotic nature. And it's in these 7 sections based on the 7 power centers of the body. So those go from the root to the crown. So literally from the base of your spine to the top of your spine. There are these 7 energy centers. They each have different qualities. They each have different aspects of how you function in life. So you're going to learn about how to know when that center is in harmony and when it's in disharmony. And what's important about that is that you can get yourself back in alignment with your mojo, with your life force, with that sexual energy much more quickly, instead of having months or years go by where you're in this state of upset and stress. So this will help get you regulated much more quickly. Then each section also has these erotic memoir stories And I didn't write this and put it out there to be like, hey, read about my sex life. I put it out there so that there is more conscious conversation about a woman and her sense of herself with sex and sexuality. These stories are super vulnerable. I don't think I've ever been this vulnerable before. And they really, this book is a bridge for you to come together with your sex and your spirit. Because I believe they are absolutely one and the same. And there is no difference. But yet again, with culture, religion, all sorts of, just other beliefs, they want us to have them separated because it keeps us in a state of less power. And when we are in a state that is disempowered, there can be more control taken over us, right? So when we bring your sex and your spirit together, you are in a state of absolute personal power. So the stories are an example, and frankly, a little bit of a titillation for sure, like a little amuse-bouche, because I do want to get you in the mood, right? It's a way to help you to feel okay with your own sense of sexuality, right? It's like, oh, okay, if that can happen over there, well, then maybe I could check it out over here, right? Or it might remind you, oh my gosh, the experience I had with that person was kind of similar to that. And oh yeah, it did. Like I can allow that to bring me back online, within my own body. So that's that story. And then at the end of each section, it's your turn. And that's where I walk you through a sexual practice and a spiritual practice to really open up and awaken and enliven that particular power center. So let's talk about the fifth. All right, because you're asking about a specific one. The fifth power center is our center of self-expression. It's our throat area. All the power centers go from the front of the body all the way to the back of the body. All right. So it literally is living in you in this very full way. It's not just like a little circle in the front. And if you think about this, there's like a column. If you ever have imagined any light, white or golden light coming down through your crown and going down the central column of your body, along that central column, which, think about your spine is there, but this energetic column, they call it the Shushumna. And so this is where all the seven power centers are connected. All right. So the fifth one is our self-expression. And as women, for many years, we have been told, oh, we don't want to hear what you have to say, right? Your voice isn't important. Right. So I love supporting women specifically in opening up this center, because the other interesting thing about this fifth center, and if you look at, I used to show at my live events that I would host, and I still show it at some of the retreats I lead. There's an image, if you look at the biological slice diagram of the larynx, and you put it up against this image of a biological slice of our vulva, it is practically identical.
Oh, gosh.
Like identical. It's hard. People like, I'll show the larynx. They'll be like, oh yeah, that's my vulva. Nope, this one's your vulva, right? And I go back and forth. So when you actually open your fifth power center, you're also opening your second, which is between your belly button and your pubic bone. Okay. And vice versa. When you work with your second power center, you are also helping to open your fifth. So I'd love to share actually the breathing exercise for the fifth. And Erica, you want to do it with me for a second?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. So just to see how you feel, right? And listeners, if you're in a place, not if you're driving, but if you're in a place where you can do this with us, just sit comfortably, uncross your legs, uncross your arms. And how this is going to go, we'll do 3 rounds. This breath exercise is to, again, open up the fifth power center. It's going to help to activate your vagus nerve, which goes from the fifth center all the way down to, frankly, to your root. So that the vagus nerve is one of the largest nerves of the body, and it helps to regulate your state of pleasure and also helps to reduce your stress. Okay, so this is a good one and a very easy one. So with your open body, we're going to, in a moment, inhale through our nose, and you want to fill your low belly with breath. That's what we're going for. And on the exhale, you're going to exhale through your mouth, but you'll be making this v. So it's a V, a V sound. So it's almost like a humming buzz. So your lips are going to be slightly opened, and that's how you'll exhale until you wring out all the breath. And we'll do it 3 times. And just notice how you feel right now, and you'll check in and see how you feel after the 3 breaths. So here we go. Let's all take a nice inhale. And exhale with the inhale for the second round. And exhale with the and third one. And you'll exhale with the amazing.
Never
So you just
done
breathe.
that one.
Huh?
I've never done that one. Obviously, I'm sure everybody has tried different breath work
Yeah.
patterns, if you want to say, but not with that sound.
Where did you feel it?
It's funny because sometimes, sometimes when you're taking the inhale, you're like, I'm not filling up my belly. I'm actually filling up my chest. And so
Yeah.
I kind of felt that. Maybe
Yeah.
it's because I'm on the spotlight, but regardless, I mean, I think it's something I could definitely practice offline and see the difference for myself. But I'm
Yeah.
curious, of course,
Yeah.
what other people
It's
think of
really,
this.
it's really fun. I actually did this at my book launch event not too long ago. And so I had a whole room of, 100 plus people doing this. And it was so much fun, first of all, to just feel the vibration in the room
Oh, I'm
shift.
sure.
And everybody was like, okay, wow, that was super easy. And, they all felt just more rooted in the body is what they were saying. Some of them felt it right in their chest. Other people felt like just more energized.
Right.
And some people definitely felt the opening in their throat. But so like, this is just one of the simple exercises from the book. And this is, of course, for the 5th power center. There's a lot of really fun sexual practices in there. And the practices are all meant for you, ladies, to utilize by yourself, for yourself, and with yourself. If you have a partner and you'd want to do it with them at some point, totally cool. But I really invite you to utilize them first on your own, because it's going to just give you that space to discover and find a new level of your own joy and pleasure that you can own for yourself. And then from that space, you can share it with a partner. But there's something very powerful about taking it on for yourself first.
Yeah, and I think when you do it by yourself, you release like that shame or that possible like a fear of
Yeah.
judgment of looking weird or whatever it may be.
Do I
So I
look
think,
good? Do I smell okay?
yeah,
Do I, all of that stuff? Is my cellulite showing? All the things,
all the
right?
things. A couple more questions to kind of enhance this. So, if you were to recommend like some things that people should have in a bedroom is obviously supposed to be for sleep, but we know it's also for intimacy as well. So, what would you recommend? Possibly something to invite more pleasure into a bedroom.
Yeah. So I always say, bedroom 3 R's: rest, romance, rejuvenation. Great. All those things that happen in there. And in terms of more pleasure, I mean, have a great lube. For sure, like lube is definitely like, have it there. You can have it in some sort of either pretty container. I mean, there are all sorts of ones. I'm so excited because nowadays that the sexual wellness industry has really come online, there's just a lot of elegant and beautiful products. I mean, there used to be just, kind of like lame
Right.
containers of lube, right? But
And
so
now you
now,
could get it in like a diamond. No, I'm kidding.
right.
I don't
Yeah.
mean that, but
Right.
it's
I mean,
something like,
yeah, there's one that actually looks like sort of a Chanel case that I
yeah.
think is fantastic. So I would definitely say have a great lube. And look, if you're just, I've used coconut oil, 100% organic coconut oil, which I say is a product to have in the kitchen, the bathroom, and the bedroom. It's fantastic. And as long as you're not using condoms, because it's not, safe with condoms, because it will break down the latex. Go for it. Use it in the bedroom. So I think definitely have a lube nearby, right? And then the basic thing is also, you ask what to have in the bedroom. Look around, and what do you need to take out of the bedroom? I
Absolutely.
guarantee you there's something in your bedroom that ain't sexy right now. And
Right.
so there's something that is detracting, even if it's on a subconscious level, that's in there that you could go, oh, you know what? I can put that in the office, or that really should go in the closet, or I could put that in the garage, or frankly, like that little tchotchke thing, it'd be better in the living room because it reminds me of my great aunt, Betty. Like, so look around the bedroom and remove whatever it is that doesn't feel sexy to you, right? That doesn't bring pleasure.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'll say is check your lighting. Like, we really forget how important the atmosphere is in terms of creating a space that is one ready for pleasure, right? So do you only have the one overhead light in your bedroom, right? And it's not even on a dimmer. Okay. So check your lighting, not because, oh, let's get in the dark, but it's about creating a space where you feel that you can let that like sexy kitten out and feel really delicious. And whether you put candles in the room, which there are also fabulous massage oil candles now, right? Where you light the candle, and then once it starts to burn down, that's actually oil you can pour into your hand and rub all over yourself or rub all over your partner, right? That's another thing. I love, love, love to have. I have one on my nightstand right now. Those are really great things to have in the bedroom as well. So, a few things.
Yeah, I think that's great is actually thinking, I forgot who I interviewed that talked about this, but just noticing all the five senses in your
Yeah.
bedroom. Like you want to have the right smells, you want to have the
Yep.
right sounds, the right lighting. Yeah, like what you're
Exactly.
able to see. And so I think that's important to think about. So if you were to like, if maybe that's a great action item for somebody to do is maybe to revitalize your room, you could think about like, are you hitting all the five senses and are you
Hmm.
putting in things that support your bedroom space for
Yeah.
the three R's, or do you need to remove something? I think
Right.
that's a great thing to do. And what would you recommend just for, I don't know if you recommend any supplements to help support, you know, support our mojo?
Well, all of that obviously is very, case by case basis for sure. I'm a big believer in like really discover what is best for your body type, what's great for your energy, because not everything is going to be great for everybody. Um, I mean, I like to eat as cleanly as possible. I think that's important. Juice and lots of hydration is something that I'm a big fan of. Well, I have to tell you, one of my favorite products, I'm not sponsored by them yet, but I told them, feel free to sponsor me because I talk about them often,
Yeah.
is LMNT. It's one of the
Oh,
best,
yeah, yeah.
right? It's one of the best minerals, and that it's a powder that you can add to your water. This is game changing, because look, a well hydrated woman is also going to have better orgasms. It really is true, because you want to have your insides lubricated as well. And so I think, and that is something everybody can use. So I highly recommend that product as a supplement. And depending on what stage you're at with whether it's, menopause, like I'm
Right.
literally starting to have a hot flash right now. So, it depends on what stage and phase you're at with
Absolutely.
are you in, perimenopause, in menopause or postmenopausal? Thank goodness again, there's a plethora of information now where we're really getting access to support where we were not when I started to go through this in the beginnings of this 10 years ago. It was still very hard to find accurate information. So, all that's out there. And I would say definitely, go and look for it.
Dive deeper.
Yeah.
Yes. So great. Thank you for those. And I think just as you mentioned, the LLMT, the just to be more hydrated. I think
Yeah.
that's great advice right there. That's for everyone. So I love that. One last or two more questions. So what are three things that you would say are biggest block for our sexual energy or our mojo, our erotic nature?
Yeah. So, three biggest blocks, I would say really number one is your own mindset. That's the first thing. Really look at like, what does it mean to you to be a sexually empowered or erotically alive being? Got to check in with yourself about that because it's really nuanced, it's really layered, and pretty much guarantee you're going to find something in there within you in your subconscious that is a block to you being as vibrantly alive and vibrantly alive in terms of your sexuality as possible. So that's the first thing I would say is mindset. Second thing is honestly, media, the way that we're supposed to look, the way that, what does a sexy, woman look like? Give me a break. I mean, sexy is absolutely an individual's perspective. Sexy is you feeling sexy in your own skin. Period. End of story. Right?
Love
It's
that.
like, it doesn't matter what you wear. It doesn't matter your haircut. It doesn't matter your hair color. It doesn't matter what earrings you are wearing. If you are feeling sexy, that is what sexy is. And that is attractive. So
I love
that, this constant comparison. And also I'm going to put in there the putting down of other women that you see that might be wearing outfits that are more revealing and go, oh, look at her, that's terrible. That's in the same thing of the media that I'm talking about. So that's this piece that also be very aware of, because our internalized patriarchy wants us to be women against women. And
it.
that's another thing that you got to check because it's really sneaky as well. So that's the second thing of like the media out there. And then, the third thing that I would say, that's really a block is believing that you don't have time. Oh, I don't have
Mm.
time to self pleasure, or I don't have time to have sex, with my partner. Life is too busy, or that's just, not really important. And so buying into the bullshit that we don't have time, you don't have time because you're not making the time.
Of
Right.
course.
And it's always about what is it that you really desire? And so if you've gotten into a groove where it's more convenient to not go through your sensual, your pleasurable, your sexual doorway, because it might take something, then that's what your life is going to be. You're not going to go through that doorway. However, to turn that around, it might take a little effort, it might take a little planning, it might take a little doing, and it might take a little being comfortable with being uncomfortable around it. But once you do move through that, oh my goodness, orgasms await.
Ugh, love it. Oh, it's so great. Thank you for that. Okay, so last question just that I ask all my guests. If you were to share a piece of wisdom, a life lesson that you've learned along your journey that you just feel you need to shout out to the world, what would that life lesson or piece of wisdom be and why?
Oh, well, this always goes back to, I would say, my grandma. My grandma was my everything. And she taught me from a very young age, she would always say, be beautiful from the inside out. And when I actually started this business over 20 years ago, all of a sudden it hit me. I went, oh, she's talking about our mojo. She's talking about that, light inside, that life force that we all have. And to really let that light shine and to have that, that inner essence, that inner glow, that is that kind of state of that gives us that state of confidence and is that beautiful sort of magnetic energy. And so when we're beautiful on the inside, it means that we are we are comfortable with ourselves, we're comfortable in our skins, we're in a state of a beautiful state of self-love and self-care. And my goodness, that's a person who is not at war with themselves, because when we're at war with ourselves, we can only be at war with others. And so that being beautiful from the inside out is really shining that, that love, that spirit, that sexual energy, so that we can connect with others from a really genuine and heartfelt space.
Oh, so beautifully said. I love ending with that. That was absolutely like the cherry on the top. Thank you so much, Deborah. This has been such an honor. I so appreciate you. And like I said, everybody go get her book. It will be in the show notes, Undressed. I would show you the cover, but I no longer have the cover because my dog ate it. But this
Your
is
dog knows what's sexy.
it's so funny. This is the first book out of all the books I've received that he ate the cover. But everybody, go learn more about Deborah Kagan and also dive into her content and explore it for yourself. Thank you so much, Deborah, for being on the show.
Erica, thanks for having me.
So welcome.